Russell will oversee the operation of the SNP's headquarters in the interim. TV, online and DAB Plus radio. This is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I am Simon Evans, making a highly irregular Saturday evening appearance, and welcome to Headliners. Joining me tonight to take you through Sunday's top news stories, we have two Headliners' favourites, the golden boy Lewis Schaefer and acceptable representative of the feminine half of the equation, Cressida Wetton, our debut performance together, Cressida, but I understand you've been here regularly over the weekends.
I have.
We just have not collided before now, so no. This will be very interesting. I have collided with Lewis quite recently.
Collided. And I'm surprised they didn't put me in the middle, actually.
And I want to say, for Wednesday, I want to apologise to you for over-talking you and messing up the whole thing. Yeah. So I brought you a little present.
Oh, bless you. How sweet. I can sense it's a roll of tape of some sort inside there, isn't it?
It's a roll of tape.
I'm going to investigate that when we hit the next ad break. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the front pages. The Sunday Mail on Sunday, Suella, I will send boat migrants to Rwanda by summer, doubling down on her hard line. Sunday Telegraph, migrants' flights to Rwanda by the summer. There is a picture of Gary Lineker looking surprisingly sanguine about the whole arrangement. Observer has Johnson makes last-ditch bid to discredit probe into Partygate, and a picture of Vladimir Putin, a couple of evil no-gooders on the front page of the Observer there. Sunday Mirror, Britain should be proud of Lineker, and Taylor Swift, who has a 3-hour comeback with costume changes. Extraordinary, the things they can do nowadays. Sunday Express, first Rwanda asylum flights this summer. And finally, the Daily Star with the rather unsettling news that losing 7 stone turned Razor Ruddock into a stud muffin. Those were your front pages. So, Cressida, let us kick off with the Mail on Sunday and the migrant update.
The migrant update. Home Secretary brushes off Lineker storm as she flies to Africa to seal deportation deal. Suella, I'll send boat migrants to Rwanda by summer. So she's been to Africa. Yeah. She's gone to have a look at the facilities. Apparently she wanted to get some home decoration tips from them. She was so impressed with where these people are going to be staying. One of the concerns, though, is still that even if this all goes ahead, there might not be enough places. Well, there won't be enough places. Oh. So
enough places in Rwanda or enough places on the flight?
Enough places in Rwanda.
I mean, they'll probably have to open a new terminal just to keep up with the output as well, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
It's got to be. I mean, it's a sort of symbolic gesture, isn't it? They're not literally hoping that this will be an ongoing sort of pipeline, Calais to Folkestone to Rwanda. The point is to operate as a deterrent, I would imagine.
Is it a deterrent? It's Rwanda. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they've had some problems in the past. And, maybe this will help the Rwanda. They'll, instead of focusing the Hutus on the Tutsis,
I think Rwanda are keen. They want the immigration.
Absolutely, they do. They're trying to reposition themselves as a tourist offer, aren't they? Or as a possibly retirement, like a
tech
sort of
industry. And
a bit like Florida, the retirement villages, lots of tennis.
Yeah.
And I think the climate looks pretty nice, to be honest.
That's in Africa, of course. It's really nice.
Yeah, well, not all of Africa is habitable, but Rwanda looks pretty good. Also, you get to cavort with mountain gorillas. I think it's a win-win. I think I might pop over to Calais and then paddle back and get myself a free flight.
Yeah, well, they might have a problem with the passport office.
Yeah, that's true. What have we got with the Observer?
Well, this is the Observer, and which is the Guardian, and they're the same thing. Johnson makes last-ditch bid to discredit probe into Partygate, and the truth is that I think this was like last year, 2 years ago. No one's interested in Partygate anymore.
Partygate came to a sort of shuddering halt roughly around the time that Russia invaded Ukraine, didn't it? That was the handover that everyone kind of accepted has happened in terms of headline grabbing. And, I mean, it seems pretty unlikely that Johnson has got any way back in, don't you think, to number 10? There was a time, of course, where there was a lot of turbulence. A little while ago, Truss came in, had one of the shortest premierships in history. Sunak came in and not everyone was convinced, but he seems actually now to be pretty well bedded in, I think
the problem is that the British press think that Boris Johnson is a viewer reader, a viewer getter.
Yeah.
It's in the same way.
Sure, this is going to be televised. Yeah. It's going to be fantastic, isn't it?
In the same way that Donald Trump got so much attention, which is why they pick on Donald Trump, because they know it increases CNN viewership. And I think Boris Johnson.
Sure. Well, we're coming up to the Trump story, which is very interesting, and I agree with you. I think they do desperately need him back in the frame so that they can get people's blood angered up. But Johnson, that just seems to me, I don't know, it doesn't ring, it doesn't kind of get the old heart hammering again, does it? Do you think, Christopher?
No, I'm more interested in the Hancock stuff now. I think we've got bigger fish to fry.
Anything else on the front page? What is that Putin story? World leaders back caught on Putin. He's actually he's being sort of, what's the word? He's accused of crimes officially. Is this it? The International Criminal Court?
Well, what's that old saying? That history is written by the winners.
Yeah.
And we're winning. The truth is, I tell you something's the matter when I feel sorry for Putin and I feel sorry for the Russians. I don't like those people. I grew up not liking those people. I'm an American. I'm not meant to like those people. But lay off of Putin. Lay off the Russians.
Oh, let's not be beastly to the Russians. That's very kind of you.
Excellent.
Sunday Times, Cressida, what have they got?
Damage to women's trust in police will last generations, Chief Constable says. So this is obviously following the Sarah Everard situation, murder. I was at a gig last night. I was at Roast Battle last night. I'm not always this well behaved.
Rose what?
Roast Battle. It's a gig where
Are you wearing the outfit for that then?
No, these are roses. Roast.
Oh, roast battle. Sorry, I thought you said a roast battle.
It's quite a brutal night, and the point is to tell the comedians tell jokes about each other. And there was a Sarah Everard joke last night.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the room went stone dead. And this is a very tolerant audience.
That's not a good... No, I don't think I'd be comfortable with that.
No, but you have to imagine the spirit of the point is, it's really... People are very affected by it. That's what I'm going to say. And I think this is absolutely right. People will talk about it for a long time.
And it hasn't been... It's not isolated. We've had... I mean, it's the most extreme example. We've had a number of stories of pass-through headliners in the last 12 months in which the Met have behaved badly. But it has obviously emerged just how many opportunities they had to...
Do you know why they behave badly? Because they're the police. And anybody who becomes a policeman is basically a criminal. There's something psychological. This is Louis Schaefer's theory, is that whatever you do, you're probably in your heart the reverse of it. If you are like a doctor, you become Harold Shipman. Most doctors are Harold Shipman, but without the nerve of it. Most comedians are not funny. Not me. I'm at the exception.
This is a theory. It's gone off the rails pretty quickly. But ACAB, I have encountered that kind of idea. I think they are going to trouble. Obviously, have you encountered hostility to your Christian name as a result of the Metropolitan Police?
Still nobody can say Cressida. Everybody says Crescinda or...
Oh, really?
Christy.
Well, that's probably not a bad thing if they're getting it wrong.
Oh, finally, it's over. I won't have to spell it out anymore. But no, nobody knows.
What about the John Lewis Eye's biggest shake-up in 150 years? Do you have any sort of sentimental attachment to the old school department stores?
I don't. I remember once trying to buy a coffee machine from them, and they always make a big point of saying never knowingly undersold.
That's gone now. Yeah.
Has it?
Yeah.
It was more expensive there because it was in a slightly different shade of black, and I just thought, oh, is this...
They can't... I don't know whether they will try and maybe a match of an absolutely pucker online price, but you certainly can't rock up and just sort of thumb through Amazon until you find one that that looks roughly the same. They won't have any of that. It's quite a nice place for wandering around, the John Lewis in Oxford Street, and I do think that department stores add a certain amount of respectability to shopping, which can otherwise descend into quite a venal activity, can't it?
That's true. They make you feel like... it was in Breakfast at Tiffany's where she says, nothing bad could ever happen to you at a place like Tiffany's.
Exactly, yeah.
And I feel like that in John Lewis.
That's the closest. Nothing bad will ever happen to me in Tiffany's because I'll never be allowed in. They have quite stern doormen on the premises.
I remember when department stores were killing, like, small businesses. And people hated department stores, and now people are regretting when a department store closes. It's
when they left Streatham, that was the beginning of the end for the whole of South London. Basically, it wasn't even a John Lewis. It might have been part of the John Lewis under a different name. There used to be a big department store on Streatham High Road, and it was a posh neighbourhood as a result. Yeah. It looked like Bedford Falls in It's a Wonderful Life, and then it was pulled out and everything caved in. But, yeah, I mean, you are right about that. Things do turn around, like the out-of-town shopping retail parks. They were, of course, they killed the high street. Now they're in trouble. You go out there, half of them are empty because everyone's just shopping online. And then Amazon is now all going to be taken over by robots. And basically, we're all becoming redundant at a very it's speeding up, isn't it, the cycle? Finally, the Daily Star, Lewis. This is the story we all really want to understand.
Well, this is the story that I actually believe in, because I was once fat and disgusting. I know it's hard to believe because I look so amazing. You can see Cressida, she shakes when she's next to me, how good-looking I am.
Weak knees.
But this guy, Razor Ruddock, who I'd never even heard of before, he's an ex-Liverpool star. He lost 7 stone, which for our foreign visitors are either 14, a stone is 14.
It's about 12 kilos.
Yeah.
So that's about 80, 82, 85 kilos, something like that.
Right, because I lost 4 stone. Well, 3, but one of them was my wedding ring. And he says...
And that's kind of ironic, because the whole point is it's restored his sexual prowess.
Yeah, because let me tell you what happens. Because when you lose weight, one of the reasons your little thingy down there isn't as large as it could be is because you're fat. There's all buildup of fat. You take away the fat, and your thing looks longer. And if you go out with a skinny girl, your thing also looks...
Cressida looks extraordinarily unconvinced about this.
I've got no opinion. Are they saying it's just that it looks bigger, or
no? I think he's saying he gets a lot more of an effective blood flow.
It's the distance from the last bit of skin.
He looks kind of weird, though. I mean, he was called Razor Ruddock. Because he was a hard man, right? He was a defender who would chop you off.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar
with
with
the Chopper Harris kind of mode. I don't know, he doesn't look like that anymore. It looks like he should be presenting Homes Under the Hammer or something now. It just, I don't know, it all still looks disappointing. Anyway, that's the front pages. Coming up after the break, we'll have Trump in trouble, prison romances, the consensual kind, and time is ticking for TikTok. Don't miss it, 2 minutes time. See you in a minute.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners with me, Simon Evans. My two fantastic comedians are Lewis the Carnivore Schaefer and Water Chris Ida Wetton. Do you get it? OK.
Water Chris.
Never heard
Moving
it before.
on. We kick off with The Observer now, and Trump's about to pull off a pretty daring publicity stunt by the looks of it, Lewis.
Oh, you consider it a publicity stunt? He's about to be arrested. It's only taken the New York district attorney 7 years to file charges. Trump claims he will be arrested on Tuesday in New York criminal case, where he was accused of giving money to a woman who he had sex with 15, 16, 17 years ago.
This is Stormy Daniels, right?
Stormy Daniels.
I believe it's more than one woman.
No, this is just one woman.
Okay.
That's what he's being... But he's done it to many other women.
Well, the case may name other individuals, but I think Stormy Daniels is the central charge. And there's another one called Karen McDougal, who was a Playboy model. Playmate, I think they call those, do they, or something, or a play friend, play person?
I don't know. He's got
anyway, yeah, Play-Doh. She's after some Play-Doh, certainly. She's after 150. No, she got 150,000. I mean, it does all look pretty messy, but it does also look... The timing is significant, isn't it? If they're just trying to derail his attempt to get back into the White House now, doesn't it?
They're not... I don't think they're trying to derail it. They would make nobody would be happier than the Democrats to run against the guy. They want him to win. I think there's some kind of weird... I think the Democrats are actually smart people.
You think there's a Freudian death drive is involved?
You think they want him to win?
No, they don't want him to win. They want to run against him.
Well, you do think the New York Times and CNN want him to win because he's the kind of villain that increases their circulation, right?
Right.
They probably... They don't want him to win, but they will be very happy if he does win.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that they have to... But I think the Democrats...
But are you saying... Sorry to interrupt, but are you saying you think that he is the least likely of all the potential candidates to win for the Republicans, the obvious other one being DeSantis?
Of the two, he's the least likely to actually, if he was running, to be able to beat whoever.
Yeah.
Because he's got a lot of dirty water under his bridge.
What do you think, Cressida?
Well, but they said that last time, didn't they? And,
yeah, they did.
It's like the Brexit thing.
They said it in 2020 and he clearly won.
Right. If people want to stamp, they want to protest, I don't know, it's all a bit...
I quite like the way The Observer comes out very strongly. They say on his postings on his social media site, he's got his own search, he repeated his lies that the 2020 president... Yeah. This is not his assertions, which have not been backed by court findings. No, his lies. I mean, they're really coming out strong on that.
Well, this is The Guardian.
Anyway, yeah. Let's take a look at the Sunday Telegraph now, and I'm shocked to read that Nicola Sturgeon's husband has resigned, because I was certain with that haircut she was a lesbian, but perhaps he is as well. Anyway...
OK, Nicola Sturgeon's husband, Peter Murrell, resigns as SNP chief executive. Now, he's claiming he was going to do this anyway, although he's previously denied that. The important thing is that we've just found out that although the people who'd like to be in charge at the SNP have been asking how many members has it got. They've been saying 100,000.
Yeah.
But the truth is they've lost 30,000.
Yeah.
And he's been avoiding coming up with this. Murray Foote, the press chief, has quit over this because he was sort of sent out to fight and say, no, we've still got 100,000.
Yeah.
Then transpired
They had more
hasn't.
than that, in fact, at one point. I think they were up to about 120,000, and now it's down to about 70,000.
Right.
But, yeah, they've been making sort of
well.
vague gestures towards 100,000 for a while, haven't they?
Yeah, it's sort of like when you're having a house party and your friends say, is anyone coming? And you go, yeah, there'll be loads of girls there. And actually, there won't be at all. It's just...
I mean, there are various reasons why people might choose not to be a member of a political party. This did happen, of course, under Corbyn. He had a huge surge of membership. It didn't necessarily translate to votes. And, in fact, if anything, it kind of made the party more toxic to the more moderate folk. So it isn't necessarily... like a bad sign that you're losing membership. It might just be people under the cost of living crisis thinking, well, I'd rather heat the house than have a membership. You know, we've given them a push in the right direction. On the other hand,
it's Scotland, and it's an irrelevant little nation off the coast of America. Nobody cares about Scotland, honestly.
We do. We desperately want to keep the border open.
You don't want to have another Northern Ireland situation.
Well, it will start splitting then after that. I promise you, if we lose Scotland, then Mercia will be next. and nobody's quite sure where that is, but it could be a significant loss. The Sunday Times now with a story on post-Brexit immigration, Lewis. Now, you're our token immigrant. What do you make of this?
I don't really understand it. Basically,
there's a turn up for the books.
It was why more immigrants come to the UK since Brexit. We know why they come to the UK.
Yeah.
Because the countries that they live in are horrible.
Well, also because...
Number one. And number two...
Go on.
No.
You go on.
You go.
OK, well, I mean, I'm just going to say the Liberal commentariat would like to paint Britain as a racist hellhole, you know, and yet it does seem to attract people who would be, you would assume, unwelcome in a racist hellhole.
Including myself. Yeah. Including myself. But number two...
You said you were welcome.
I wasn't welcome. Number two is I had all these immigrants who are coming to this country have a very unrealistic view of what the country is from all the TV programs. So it's a combination of their places being horrible and thinking, wow, it looks like paradise in Britain, and it's not paradise.
What TV shows are they watching, you think? Happy Valley or
they're
something?
watching Me on the Crown. They're watching Me on the Crown.
Didn't know you were on it, Lewis.
Yeah.
What do you think, Cressida?
I think it's interesting that it's just that there are different people coming. So the immigrants in 2004 were typically the newly allowed people from Poland and places nearer to us.
Yeah.
They were unskilled, and this article is saying that now we're getting people from Nigeria, Zimbabwe and the Philippines who might be coming...
And primarily India. We have a huge... We virtually have a freedom of movement relationship with India now, which is very similar to the one we have with Europe.
Yeah, so that doesn't sound particularly racist, does it?
No, you know, and we've got vastly more immigrants than we used to have. I think every single rhetorical device that has been thrown at immigration over the last 30 years has turned out to be utterly hollow. There's been no let up at all, or even slow down.
No, because the powers that be, who is ever running this world, they want immigration. They want. It doesn't matter what kind of immigration, because if you have skilled people, it means that some British person who is skilled will then be forced to have to do some unskilled. So it's like having women. It's like when you allow women into the country. Even the ugly ones raise the boats of everybody else.
Cannot believe. Anyway, on to the Daily Mail. They say women love bad boys as well, but is this a stitch too far, Cressida?
Cressida loves me. I mean, I'm a bad boy.
That has not been confirmed. Prison officers having affairs with criminals rise by nearly 90%. And the actual number, what that means is 5 men and 31 women have been having... You know, it's not that many, is it?
No.
And obviously, if you want to make something...
When things rise by a percentage, it's always a sign that it's a small number.
Check the numbers. You know, and they're just making it really sexy, aren't they? You mustn't do that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't find it that surprising at all.
Are you that way?
I don't know.
No, I'm not. I'm not a prison officer.
You just said it makes it really sexy. You mustn't do that. So do you like a bit of the naughty?
No, I'm just saying I've met human beings. I know what we're like.
Yeah.
These same women and these same photographs and these same stories appeared in the Daily Mail a few months ago. I don't know. They seem to find any opportunity to basically repeat the same story as much as they can.
Plagiarising themselves.
It is fairly unedifying, because when you think, oh, sexy, naughty behaviour in prison, that sounds a bit salacious, and then you see the photographs and the individuals concerned, and it just feels, I don't know, like it should really not be watched. You know,
I thought it was a broad spectrum. You can go online and look at the photos. There were some very attractive people and some not so much so. Why do they have to take photographs?
Which one did you think was attractive?
Oh, I haven't got the names now. I don't know. There was a very staged picture of a blonde lady.
Oh, yeah, the top one. Yeah, that did seem a bit oddly.
Well, you want to know what causes it. Number one, you shouldn't put women in a prison with all these men. Number one. Number two, you take a prison population. They're all fit, these prisons. They spend all day working out. They're not like fat English people. They look amazing.
I'm not sure about that.
And they're bad boys like Louis Schaefer. The women love the bad boy. And number two, it's a captive audience. They're stuck there.
Well, they're blaming undertrained officers.
No, it's not. It's women being in a prison. They should not be allowed to be in a
I have
prison.
to say, if you'd thrown a women prison officer into Porridge, the sitcom, it would have struck most people as being a bit unfeasible, wouldn't it? But gradually, it seeped. Terrible news in the Times now, as if the NHS isn't in enough trouble. Now the government are going to ban TikTok. Now where will the nurses dance?
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting news story, because because TikTok, they want to ban TikTok. And I think they're going as far as to ban it for government employees.
Government phones, yeah.
But they're not banning it for government phones. So if a government person has a regular phone, they're allowed to use it, and the rest of us will be allowed to use it. I don't know why they should ban it, and even they say they don't know why they should ban it. And you can get around banning it by having a VPN, which is a virtual private network, which I barely know what it is because I'm 66 years old.
It's where you pretend to be somewhere else.
It's where you pretend to be
so
somewhere else.
So your phone thinks you're wherever you say you are.
Yeah, so it's
so people can have illicit affairs. And things.
Yeah, all right.
So I assume part of the reason, if they're going to ban it from government phones, it's not because it's a waste of time or because you're being indoctrinated or you're wasting all your time watching dancing videos. It's because it's a Chinese state piece of software, and the suspicion is that it can be used to get data that they'd rather you didn't have, rather. Is that the idea?
So, but if you've still got it on your private phone, what's the difference? I don't know.
But it has been banned from a lot of other places. I think they've banned it it says in India and I think America as well. Is that right?
No, they haven't banned it in America. Donald Trump wanted to ban it in America. At the end of the day, it should be banned because it makes people feel so bad. It's one of those things, you do it. It's like it's like playing Candy Crush. You do it and you get into I don't know what the phrase is, time warp or something. Next thing you know.
Doom scrolling.
Next thing you know.
You can't stop looking at bad things. It's addictive.
Candy Crush is not necessarily doom scrolling, though, I suppose.
I've never done that.
It's just a game, right? That's a game, isn't it? It's one of those. It's like
what does you say?
Tetris, isn't it? Doom scrolling is when you're just looking at bad news.
It's bad news making yourself feel...
And you're just
my thing
waiting
then
for something
is puppy scrolling. I waste way too much time looking at dog videos. It's like, I know what the dog's going to do. It's going to be cute. Crest, stop it. And I can't stop myself.
I sometimes think when we look back on our lives, we will just think, what the hell were we doing? But then I suppose probably people in the 80s used to, I don't know what they did in those days that was equally
Well, that's coming up later. Meaningful connections.
I think you were in the 80s.
We'll find out.
You in the 80s.
I know, I was there and I still can't remember it. Back combing my hair. Until it fell out. We've got to take a quick break now. Don't go anywhere, as we'll have artificial intelligence, pornography and autism coming up. You can definitely tell which of our producers are working on tonight's show. See you in a couple of moments.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Monday to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
And welcome back to Headliners. We'll jump straight back in with Sunday's Mail. And should autistic people be able to diagnose themselves? Personally, I think that takes the fun away from me doing it. But Cressida, what's your view?
Autistic people should be able to diagnose themselves in some cases. Top expert says, so this is the Daily Mail, Professor Fletcher Watson is in favour of self-ID.
Yeah.
He or she, I don't know, thinks that this should be something you can just ID like you would a gender that gets mentioned in this. I don't know, they're saying 1 in 100 people are autistic.
Some say 1 in 50 now or something around that. This is speeding up.
Some of us work in comedy and can't believe it's so low. I don't know.
I do think it is something to do with the bubble you work in to some extent. You know, there are certain bubbles and there are a lot of industries now which hire autistic people or people on the spectrum, let's say, quite deliberately. Like, they look for it. They regard it as the ability to, like, the super focus you can bring, the obsessive qualities and so on are considered to be...
Yeah.
It's not that. It's not being diagnosed. If people could diagnose themselves, it only depends on how much money is involved.
Wow.
It's how much money they can make by saying I'm autistic. What kind of programs they could get into. It's the same way with all the other
You're right. It's the question of whether it's not about programs necessarily, but it might be about medication. It might be about getting access to interventions of one kind or another. And that is obviously, you know, that's different. If you say I can identify as a woman, or I can identify as a man, or non-binary or whatever. If it's simply a question of having a slightly irritating demand for, you know, your pronouns being acknowledged, that's one thing. But with autism, if that's something that you're kind of going, I have diagnosed myself as being autistic and I now demand, I don't know, extra time in exams, that could be one thing, for instance, you know.
Good drugs.
Okay, that's a good point. But I'm thinking diagnosis is so you've got a call to action, isn't it? It's a what to do next rather than a...
So you say, I've diagnosed myself as autistic, now what? That is the big question, isn't it?
I can make allowances for myself. I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, we don't have lots of money in the NHS to diagnose everybody, so I reckon save a few quid.
And there are people, I've heard a lot of people saying lately that there are various clinics which have been set up quite recently and opportunistically to offer diagnoses of this kind of thing, ADHD and so on, because there's money in it, because people want a diagnosis and the NHS is overwhelmed and you've got to be a 2-year waiting list, so instead you can go round the back and jump the queue and pay for it.
And you're always saying people should take care of themselves. That's one of your favourite ideas.
They should take care of themselves, but I mean, I would say you could diagnose yourself with anything as long as I shouldn't be too serious about this. As long as we don't have to give them so much money. I mean, I remember when I was younger, my doctor. It was during the bleak depression years of the 1990s, and my doctor said I went to a psychiatrist.
The 1990s.
1990s, yeah. Oh my God, so long ago. And my doctor said, "Wow, you're really depressed. I can get you depression benefits."
Right.
And I said. Of course I'm depressed. I don't have a job. I don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah, it's a rational response.
Yeah, rational. So I didn't take the... I wish I
Good for you. Well, you're on the next best thing now on GB News. Here we stick with the Daily Mail, and it seems ethical porn makes as much sense as a vegan sausage. You managed to kick the habit anyway, Lewis, so that's good.
You know what? I'm not embarrassed about it. And I tell you something. This says that now scientists say all porn is bad for everyone, and they should stop viewing it. And... I'm not saying porn is bad, but the researchers at the Brigham Young University who are against sex, they're the Mormons. Of course they're going to say that
I did think that was tucked away in the article, but you're right. Brigham Young University is specifically funded by the Church of the Latter-day Saints. They have like a mission statement which says no sex outside of a marriage between a man and a woman.
So of course they're going to come up with this thing. And the question is, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It said that people who look at porn have bad relationships.
It does say, if you're within a relationship.
You are interrupting me.
Go on.
I'm going to be accused of interrupting you. You are interrupting me.
I want to know how they got a control sample.
And then the audience is thinking he hasn't prepared.
Go on.
I haven't prepared, but this is one thing that I did prepare. Sorry about that. I'm yelling at the host. This is the worst television ever.
I want to know how they got a control sample. How did
you're
they find...
interrupting me.
Oh, I thought I was having a rebirth. How did they find people that aren't watching it to...
Well, that says that you watch a lot of
no,
it. And
it says that I've been looking at John Gray videos recently. I'm fascinated by John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus, that guy.
Yes.
And he wrote about hormones a lot, and the impact of porn on hormones is really damaging, and it stops guys having testosterone because they don't have to go through the process of really winning a woman's affections.
Yeah.
And anyway, he was talking about this in a thing I watched the other day, and he said they can't get control groups to test people that don't watch porn because everybody watches it, so they can't find young men.
Maybe not within a relationship. The point is, within a relationship, if you watch porn or then you don't watch porn, obviously single men, obviously men who are not. But the picture that they always use at the top of these articles is a bloke lying in. His wife is asleep in bed and he's got the laptop open, and he's investigating something.
But my point was, it's a question of people who are unhappy relationships are looking at porn, or looking at porn causes unhappy relationships. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
And you should always leave the chicken alone.
OK. The Guardian now, Cambridge University is
determined to... Did I yell at you?
Sorry?
Did I yell at you? I didn't mean to yell at you. I apologise for yelling. I'm going to have to bring in something next week, which you're not going to care about. I apologise. I'm going to apologise to Simon. I love Simon so much, really. He's like, you are like a smarter, more successful brother.
Lewis, take your meds. The Guardian now. Cambridge University is determined to destroy itself further, Cressida.
Yes, Cambridge College to create fellowship to examine slavery links. So this is a bit strange. They're creating a fellowship position to look into the history of slavery and how it's benefited Cambridge University. Turns out they've already had an inquiry. This is why I'm confused, because they had an inquiry in 2019 to 20.
Yeah.
They looked at the past. Surprise, surprise. Of course, there's links because it's an old institution.
Yeah.
It concluded that there were significant benefits, although there was no direct owners of slavery. So the point they're making is that slave owners would have sent their kids to study there.
Yeah, but they're worried more about bequests, I suppose, from slave owners and so on that have established entire colleges, that kind of thing, or statues. The Rhodes Must Fall thing is the big example.
So it's this idea that we need to have an honest conversation, get it all out in the daylight, and then we can move on. And that's the bit
We never do we?
Sure
it's like you say, can we have an on-demand, get it out in the daylight? It's not like that. It's like constantly reopening a wound. It seems that there is this kind of this impulse now to just constantly go backwards.
It isn't reopening a wound, because there was no wound for English people or for myself. It's like saying you should feel bad because someone somewhere, for some amount of time, for some amount of money, knew someone who was involved in the slave thing. You know what? We should go to every person who visits, who goes to school there from every one of those countries and check their slave links, whether it's Spain or Portugal. You don't think those people had slave links?
Oh, of course.
Or Italy? Or the other day we did the thing with the what's his name? The Da Vinci's mom was a slave. Or Nigeria, half of those people were slave owners. The other half were slave capture people.
Yeah. They could put the money into looking at modern slavery, couldn't they? That might be.
Yeah, or just investigating, something of actual use to, on an academic basis rather than a sort of social activism.
That doesn't mean I support slavery. I want to go on record as saying I don't support.
Or benefit from. The Eye next, and the universities are having language troubles. I have to say, I've had my share of those. But,
this is something I didn't even know about. It's the academic misconduct and poor student performances at UK universities, not my kid, are linked to this test called the Duolingo entry test, which is a $50 online test which kids take, or people take, to see if they could go to university. And
this is just to test whether their language is good enough, right?
This isn't their academic entry. No. This is their...
And so this story has basically been planted, probably, by the other language tests companies, including the 265-pound Duolingo, it's called the English language testing system test, which costs 265 pounds. They basically, they're basically saying this Duolingo test is not very good. We don't know that to be true. I bet there's some kind of money being changing hands to try to badmouth the Duolingo.
Have you used it?
I haven't
You've got
used
experience. I've tried to relearn French with it, and I can't say I got very far.
When my son was learning Spanish GCSE, and I thought it might be a little sort of like a little parallel training, it was utterly useless, I have to say. But I suppose that's the difference between learning it and actually using it as a test, if they've created a test.
Yes. And it's better than TikTok, isn't it? It's not a...
We did mention, I don't know if it came up earlier, but when they were talking about the immigration statistics, part of those, the elevated immigration, is from foreign students, which is like a massive deal now. About 500,000 foreign students come in, and it's a huge money spinner for the universities, and you can easily imagine that they would not be necessarily looking too closely at their ability to actually function when they get here. If they're going to commit to... I don't know how much they pay, but it's significantly more than the standard sort of £9,000 a year.
And it costs only £50 for them to take the Duolingo test, so of course they would want more people to pay it, because more people would be willing to.
Hopefully they pick it up when they get in. Finally, in this section, we go to The Observer, and it seems AI is stealing jobs in the wrong order, Cressida.
ChatGPT said, "I do not exist. How artists and writers are fighting back against AI." So when these AI services, I don't know what to call them, but in order to create some artificial stuff, they've got to scrape all this data from existing artists.
Yes, that's right.
Apparently designers and photographers are not
happy about it.
They're not happy about it. It's hardest for them at the moment, because at the moment we still can't get any decent poetry or jokes from these things. But it's starting to... It's like these people are saying it's not just this terrible in the future thing, it's happening now.
It's happened very, very suddenly in the course of the last 6 months. I mean, I follow a number of accounts on Twitter who post... The joy, the fun of it, partly at this point, is creating a text prompt, that creates interesting, like Dr. Jordan Peterson versus the Daleks was one somebody did recently, and it worked out very well. But then you give it a little tweak, you introduce a word here or there, and then suddenly you get an image. Now, it's not something you'd put over on your wall at this point, but it's certainly something that could illustrate the book cover of the jacket illustration for a book, or a CD cover, that sort of thing. I mean, they're certainly up to that standard, and I would imagine a lot of commercial artists, who used to get a decent, steady income from that kind of thing. We're not talking about fine arts. We're talking about people who create images that people will use for commercial purposes.
Well, there's an example here. A guy who narrates audiobooks has found out that his work's now being used by Apple. Not directly, but their technology has listened to his audiobooks to then learn how to do an audiobook. So that's pretty awful. That's currently halted while they look into
I did a corporate the other night with a guy called Roger Tilling, who is the voice of University Challenge. He's the one who goes Pennsylvania Schaefer when you buzz your button, you're starter for 10. And also, he is the voice of sat-navs on Land Rover cars. Apparently, they come pre-programmed with him.
Brilliant.
And I was thinking, that is a fantastic endorsement of your voice, isn't it? But if they could just scrape it from University Challenge, of course, I suppose you have to record a number of turn right, turn left sort of type things.
But isn't that what we as comedians do? We copy, not me, but we copy other comedians. And everybody copies. It's just so this is a machine copying. I'm not worried about artificial intelligence.
Are you not?
No, because I think...
Because you don't have any that could be that could be threatened by it.
You know what? It's fantastic for everybody. They say, oh, that show that I did, that was just artificial intelligence. They made the whole thing up, and I can get out of bad gigs.
Let's take a quick break now. Join us in just a couple of minutes for Sexy Spring Breakers, Sexy Centenarians and Sexy Staff Exploitation. I cannot wait. See you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners. So we start our last section tonight with the Mail on Sunday, and it's bad news for all hard-working staff, which is why I make sure to phone this job in every bloody night, to be honest.
Yeah, you are not phoning it in. And I'm not phoning it. I'm just struggling to stay above my feet anyway. This is in the Daily Mail, that staff who go the extra mile in their jobs are more likely to be exploited by their bosses. And this one guy did a study where he asked bosses. He asked at Duke University in North Carolina, which is a very good school, supposedly. He presented managers with a choice of 2 employee profiles. One had a reputation for loyalty to their boss, and the other was much less loyal, right, if loyal at all. And the manager said they would usually ask the loyal person to do things at no extra pay. This is the Daily Mail. This is such. I'm not saying this against this program, but this tells you how horrible the newspapers are. That this is news. Of course, the nicest, helpfulest. You got all the assignments because you were so good.
You don't know that about me.
I
you
know
are
it.
absolutely right. And once I used to work in a call centre doing these. It was like market research. We had to ring people up and ask them how they'd experienced whatever product it was.
Yeah.
And it was horrible, as you'd imagine. I was a student. And because I've got like a trustworthy voice, you know, people like you think I wouldn't do anything wrong. I was really good at it because people didn't hang up on me. And then I got worse clients. I got like not clients, they're the gold card. These are the people who definitely don't want to talk to you because they're posh.
Yeah.
And I left the job. I told them.
Because you're asked to do more. So everybody knows that. Me, I was a horrible employee. I know it's hard to believe because I look so amazing. But I had 8 jobs before I started the comedy business, and 7 of them I got fired. 2, the police were actually called and came into the office to ask 2 out of bad. And I hated people like you, Cressida, and I hated people like Simon.
I hated people like you. I was very jealous of the outrageous, transgressive. I'm amazed it doesn't mention gender, because it's often ladies, isn't it, who are
more
too agreeable.
Or hard-working.
Well,
taken advantage of. We move on to the Star. Just how far will male students go to see topless women? We want to know now, all the way to a Mexican drug cartel, it seems, Cressida.
This is brilliant. Spring breakers told to stop partying as they risk being slaughtered by warring cartels. So this is American students, up to 100,000 of them, descend on South Parade Island. They want to go to Mexico for this.
Padre.
What did I say? Parade. Sorry, Padre. Thank you. They want to go there to get crazy and do whatever they do, get drunk, whatever. And now they're going to... Do you know these places? Right, so...
Been there.
Have you been to Matamoros?
I've actually been to Matamoros, yeah.
And he survived it. So it's dangerous. Recently, 4 Americans got killed. And I can relate to this because when I was a teenager, we used to go for our end-of-year thing in Newquay, and that was pretty outrageous. And my friend...
Newquay?
Yeah.
In Cornwall.
And they'd let you get tattoos even if you were 60. It was crazy. My friend Russell has got a tattoo of Manchester.
Not quite such a sort of intense drug cartel murder rate, though, is there in Newquay? I think. I don't know. I haven't been there lately.
It's a long time since I went. So
Actually, my daughter did go to, I think it was called, like, it's some kind of surf festival or something down in Newquay, Boardmasters or something, and I think she did say that there was a little bit of naughtiness going on down there. So maybe we're seeing a nascent drug cartel kind of culture there,
Well, I see, I'm seeing through all of these stories. This story is saying don't go across the border to Matamoros, hang out in Brownsville.
But that always used to be... Dylan had lyrics about not crossing the border into Mexico.
Yeah, because he didn't
wind
want...
up in a bad place.
Exactly.
You wind up in Juarez.
Yeah, he didn't want to be killed, and that was the song in Brownsville Girl, which is one of the best songs.
There you go. Next, we go to the Sunday Mirror, just in time for Mother's Day. And have you ever had a problem with your in-laws, Lewis? I can't imagine you would.
Well, I didn't...
Not lately, obviously.
The thing is, this is another thing. Is the mother. Here's a story. Here's a story, which is I don't even know where to begin because it's a mother who is unhappy because her husband wants to spend Mother's Day with his mother and doesn't fawn over her.
Well, this is the trouble with Mother's Day, isn't it? They all come at once, basically. Everyone is a mother and has a mother. And so you have a sort of chain of mothers, And so the one mother thinks, I want a day off, and instead is expected to go and pay homage to her mother-in-law.
Yeah.
That is a tricky situation.
Tricky.
There's only one way out of it, though, and that's not any better as a rule.
Which is divorce.
Divorce or
Which
murder,
is divorce.
I guess.
Maybe murdering your own wife. Maybe that's the way
So there should be, like, 2 days. There should be one for, like, Mother's Day, and then there should be one for, like, Crohn's Day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Grandma's Day.
Oh, brilliant.
The Independent now, we got just enough time to get these last 2 stories in, Cressida. I don't think this one is likely to feature in the next Lego movie.
I hope not. Medical professionals swallow Lego heads to test how long it takes to poop them out. I think I've told you the whole story.
That's a weird selection, isn't it? You would think that the medical profession would be able to come up with something devised for that purpose, rather than having to sort of reuse children's toys.
Well, some kind of electronic thing which would measure the time of what's going on.
And maybe totally smooth, because doesn't the Lego thing have a little peg, little head?
It has heads.
Or does it just have a hole for the neck unit?
I think you're right, so you can attach the hat if it's got one. Apparently one guy took more than 2 weeks. I think that's the main part of
I
the
swallowed
story.
a gold crown once and waited for it to cut. Accidentally got loose, and it was worth a couple of £100 if I could get it back out.
Really?
You know, well, I mean,
And
in
did it
terms of
come
the
out?
cost. Never found it again, no. But I was like staring. I should have used the metal detector, which we had in the cupboard. And
It doesn't work.
Sitting there
You can't use a metal detector for gold.
I think you can. I think that's exactly... Yeah, people aren't looking for ring pulls.
But isn't it a magnetic thing?
The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages before we go. The Sunday Mail has Suella, I'll send boat migrants to Rwanda by the summer. The Sunday Telegraph, migrants' flights to Rwanda by summer. Observer, Johnson makes last-ditch bid to discredit probe into Partygate. Sunday Mirror, Britain should be proud of Loynaker. Sunday Express, first Rwanda asylum flights this summer. And finally, the Daily Star has losing 7 stone turned me into a stud muffin. Those were your front pages. That's all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Lewis Schaefer and Cressida Wetton.
Thank you.
And remember that if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, stay tuned for The Breakfast Show. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Co.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions are, those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes & Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
How lovely to see you all again, fellow travellers. Here we are for another edition of Neil Oliver Live on GB News TV and on radio. Tonight on the show, I'll be discussing what the fall of the Silicon Valley Bank could mean to us here in the UK and what actually happened at the US Capitol building on January the 6th, 2021. Plus, an unexpected victory for the Dutch Farmers Protest Party. All of that and more coming up. But first, an update on the latest news from Tatiana Sanchez.
Neil, thank you and good evening. This is the latest from the GB Newsroom. The Home Secretary has defended a plan to send illegal migrants to Rwanda. That's as the government confirmed more than 200 people crossed the channel yesterday following 5 days of inactivity. Suella Braverman is in the Rwandan capital, Kigali, where she's been given a tour of a housing site which will provide long-term accommodation for refugees. She maintains the government's deportation policy, which has faced some criticism, will act as a powerful deterrent for those considering dangerous journeys in small boats. The Home Secretary also visited a training and education centre where she addressed some of the graduates.
We are absolutely delighted and excited about our partnership with Rwanda to be creating a vibrant community here, to be a positive, secure, beautiful haven and home for many thousands of people. And I'm really excited about the contribution that these talented graduates will be making to the prosperity of Rwanda and the security of many, many people.
Donald Trump says he expects to be arrested on Tuesday, and writing on his site, Truth Social, he called on his supporters to protest and take the nation back. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office is likely to bring charges against the former US president over an alleged hush money payment made to the adult film star Stormy Daniels in the run-up to the 2016 election. No former president has ever been criminally charged. Trump, who's been impeached twice, says the attorney's office is corrupt and highly political. The chair of Republican Overseas, Greg Swenson, says the move will not work.
This is just another attempt at getting to Trump. You know, Trump derangement syndrome is alive and well, in spite of the fact that it's been, over 2 years since he was in office. So, look, a lot of these DAs in especially the Southern New York, ran their campaigns with the slogan, "I'm going to get Trump." I don't think this will work. I think it will backfire ultimately.
The SNP's chief executive has resigned with immediate effect. It follows reports Peter Murrell, who's also Nicola Sturgeon's husband, was facing the threat of a vote of no confidence following a row over the party's membership numbers. In a statement, he said while there was no intent to mislead, he accepts that has been the outcome. Michael Russell will oversee the operation of the SNP's headquarters in the interim. The RMT has warned passengers will face further rail misery unless the government offers new money in union negotiations. Thousands of its members at 14 train operators have walked out for the second time in 3 days. It resulted in widespread travel disruption across the country. The RMT General Secretary Mick Lynch says transport ministers need to follow the example of other government departments.
We need a change. We need the government to make a change in attitude. There's a bit of that this week we've seen in the health service and maybe in the teachers' unions. The difference in those deals is that there are no conditions. It's new money.